welcome. This session is going to take by our very own Anu ma'am. Anu ma'am is an academic with over 11 years of teaching and leadership experience. Her forte being marketing and human resource management, she has taught in many reputed business schools and colleges. Currently, ma'am is the faculty mentor of Exemplifiers, the marketing club, and coordinator of BBA department. Now I request Anu ma'am to start the session on the topic public speaking. I speak, you listen. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Vaishnavi, for your kind words for introducing me. And yes, I think, am I audible to everybody? I guess.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So there's a saying that speak in a way that everybody would love to listen to you, and listen in a way that everybody would love to speak to you. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to my session, Public Speaking. I speak, you listen. Well, I'm breaking this topic into three segments. That is the objectives, the principles, and the tips to know how to work the stage. And then towards the end, I will be showing you a small video. And also, I want to tell you that simultaneously, I will not be able to show you my PowerPoint presentation because of the technical issues that is happening. So that is why there'll be a lot of speaking and listening only today. I will be sharing you my PowerPoint just after the session, all right? So yes, public speaking has been a journey to me, and I would love to share my journey with you. I remember years ago when I wanted to be a lecturer, I never thought that I would come this far. It all happened during my school days. By the way, I changed 6 different schools because of my dad's job. So you can imagine how draining that would have been to introduce myself over and over again in each and every school and in each and every class. So yes, and it all started in my 4th grade where I was in my comfort zone. And I thought that I would be, having these friends till my 10th grade, and I would be only seeing my faculties till my 10th grade until I had to move all the way from Darset School to Alwadi Al Kabir School. And this shift was due to the distance problem that we had. And the only good thing that had for me was during the Thursdays and Fridays, I would go all the way to Darset community and play with my, neighbors, and because of the attachment that I had with them. So yes, so here was I in Alwadi Al Kabir school, new class. I was amidst all strangers, and I did not know what to do. I was already worried. That is when an English sir walks in, Mr. Christopher sir, I still remember. And he looks at me and he tells me, why don't I stand up and introduce myself to the class? I stood up and I went blank. I was frozen and I did not know what to do. I just looked around, and there was this long quietness that they maintained because they were waiting for me to talk. And in order to break that awkwardness, and quickly I had to tell my name, and I said, Hamara naam Anureetha Das hai. Back then I did not know why I said that, but out of embarrassment, I did not speak to anyone in the class after that. And I came straight home. I went straight to my room and I buried myself in the pillow. And I thought to myself that I'm never playing teacher game ever again with my Pakistani neighbors again. And I also thought that I'm not worth playing that game because learning techniques to speak effectively is not my thing. Until I faced a similar situation in my 6th grade where my dad sat with 15 of his friends, and he casually asked me, I had scored 90% in Arabic back then. So, and he asked me, why don't I tell out Arabic numbers in front of his friends? And I looked at his friends, and you can imagine what I did. I ran, I shied away. I kept shying away from my 4th grade till my 6th grade. But one thing I realized that night was public speaking is not about speaking in front of strangers or speaking in front of a class or speaking in front of a large gathering. It could even be in front of 8 to 10 people where you're telling them an incident, where you're sharing your information with them or you're sharing your knowledge with them. And gradually I understood gradually I literally understood that wherever you go in your life, wherever that you are in your life, you are an entrepreneur, or you are a entertainer, you're a teacher, you're a trainer, you're a coach, you're a salesperson. Each time that you're separated from the crowd, each time you're standing alone from the crowd, you are doing public speaking, you know. And if you do that effectively, you will grow in your life. It is a skill that everyone can master. When I say that you need to talk effectively, we all are expecting that you to talk effectively. That means we are expecting you to dive into the sea or into the ocean or into the swimming pool smoothly without learning swimming. Or we are expecting you to literally take part in a classical singing competition even without being trained at it. Or we are literally asking you to jump from buildings like a stuntman without even learning the techniques of it. So if that is not possible, even this is not possible without learning. So public speaking is all about the way you produce your thoughts in an organized way, the way you produce your thoughts in an organized way. And these thoughts could be your ideas, your opinions, your values, your thoughts, even for that matter sharing of any data or talking about any technical matter. And when you do that effectively while you present it, and when you present it, uh, you do it effectively in order to get certain objective. And that objective could be to educate people, or to entertain people, or to persuade people, or even for the matter that to even impress people, you know. So in order to achieve effective public speaking techniques, there are certain objectives that you have to keep in mind, that you need to be aware of. So the first objective is you need a language. You definitely need a language, right? Even if you are implementing a plan in, or or you're talking to people, or you're literally making sure that you're investing in your company, or you're advising somebody, for everything you require a language. And these days the language that you require is English, right? Wherever you go, the main language that everybody speaks is English. Now, I'll give you an example. Just 2 years back, I remember my friend calling me and saying me that, you know what, I'm working for ADP company and they're asking me to give a presentation. And I was thinking that while I'm presenting, in between, I just want to talk in Hindi, if that is okay. And I ended up asking her 3 questions, which she said that, you know what, you do make a point. And the questions that I ended up asking her was, the first one was, uh, do you have a global audience? You need to ask yourself, do you have a global audience? The entire IT sector is filled with global audience. The businesses that you do is global audience. The second question I asked her was, what is the expectation of the people who are listening to you? You know, the same way the expectation of a student when he's having out of a teacher while she is giving a lecture, if she is using vernacular languages, the kind of casuality that the students will look, the kind of casuality that the students will only focus rather than the subject matter. The same way, even in the IT sectors, they will only think about the informal way that you're talking rather than the subject matter that you're concentrating on. And the third most important question I asked her was, does your firm has one communication skill set? Does your organization expect you to talk one language? And that is when everything was making sense. I'm not telling you that you need to be perfect in English. I'm not telling you that you have to ace yourself in English language. But what I'm trying to tell you is you need to have a certain degree of command, a certain degree of command over your language and your pronunciation. You know, I'll give you an example. In my 8th standard, I had this physics sir, his name was David Paul sir, and he had a very unusual way of taking attendance. And each time he would be taking attendance, all our friends, in fact, the entire class, we would be waiting for him to take attendance, because he would go like 28, 29, and 30, and then 38, 39, and 40. It's not about how he said it. It's not about why he said it. It's about he literally taking away the focus of the student to one particular thing rather than people focusing on the content that they are telling. Rather than focusing on the content, we are focusing on that one unusual way of pronunciation for his entire class. So you need to have a combination. You need to have a combination of your skill. You need to have a combination of the language and your pronunciation. I'm not literally half of Americans would have been professional English speaking people, the public speaking people. In fact, according to the statistics, it said that nearly 30% of the Americans, and now recent statistics is 25.3% of the Americans report that they're afraid or very afraid of public speaking. So you can imagine. So you just need to have a certain degree of command over your language and pronunciation while you are producing your thought, while you're producing your suggestions. And language is something that should not come in between. So that is why in my fourth standard, when I said Hamara naam Anureetha hai, that is probably because I was thinking in Hindi and I could not convert myself in English. You get me? So you need to think fast and talk smart in one language. And the second point is you need to show up to give. Every speaker should show up to give. 2009, when Simon Sinek book released titled Start With Why, and it said that great leaders inspire everyone, and he inspired me to every bit. He literally inspired me to every bit. Every analysis that I made was due to the perceptions that I could change. The thing that I really learned is that I learned to change my perspective. And with changing my perspective, I could analyze that the effective speaker is the one who is speaking in order to have a giving attitude, who is showing up to give. And how they show up to give, how do they make sure that they show up to give? Now, according to Simon Sinek, he says that if you have done something, if you have tried something, you know something that someone else thinks that you need to be heard, and that is why they are inviting you to speak. And that is when you need to ensure that you are standing there to give something for the audiences. Now, in order, there are certain false starts and there are certain negative or false starts that you have to avoid. Now, the negative and false starts that you have to avoid is, now, for example, the author of a book. Now, when he's releasing the book and everybody pays and everybody sits for that 1 hour session, and he is a very, he's talking about a topic, he's talking about organization, or he's talking about personality, he's talking about any important points that he has to say. It's not that he is revealing the important conclusion of the book, but he is just talking about certain aspect. And while he's talking, he stops and he says, if you want to know more, buy my book, Taking Mentality. If you know about it, if people are sitting for your 1 hour session, you need to ensure that you are giving a lot of benefit to the audience in that 1 hour. So that kind of taking mentality will not work. So it's easy for us to discern which is a speaker who is having a taking mentality and a giving mentality. The other taking mentality is speakers who literally start off their speech by talking about their credentials. They start off by saying that I have done 10 PhDs and I worked in 20 different companies, and I was the advisor of this company, or I was the chief advisor of this particular organization. That is a taking mentality. He is clearly up there for you all to follow up, for you all to follow his page, for you all to follow on whatever that he's doing. So he's there to follow up. So you need to ensure that you need to be on the stage in order to give the benefit for the audiences. I have known so many speakers like Les Brown, Tony Robbins, Dan Pink, Amy Cuddy, Nancy Durant, Vanessa Van Edwards, and my favorites Dhananjay Hitriarchi and Sir Ken Robinson. All these speakers, they have a very different way of putting across things That is, they earn the appreciation from the audiences. The audience will applaud, the audience will give them standing ovation because they feel that they have been benefited out of this session. You know, they what they have given is value. So you need to show up to give. The other false starts that you need to avoid making is carrying more than one bag. You know, nonverbal communication goes beyond the colors that you wear, the accessories that you choose, or the kind of clothes that you wear. So beyond that, it is always perceived that when a speaker is carrying more than one thing with him, that is, he's carrying a coat, a briefcase, a pen drive, a paper, his phone, his laptop, his chalk piece, his everything that he's carrying along with him, that is often perceived that he is less organized and more forgetful. So in order to make sure that you are shown that you have come for the audience, you need to put away these things behind you. You know, whenever you're invited to speak, you need to ensure that you put everything in your car, or you have to place everything in the reception and just enter without nothing in front of the audience, or just with a pen drive in front of the audience, showing that you have come for them. That the other thing that you have to avoid is social anxiety. I think, I'm sure that you all have come across this situation, and I think at least I did. You know, when you are speaking, or when you're about to speak, you're on the stage, you know, you're on the stage and you're about to speak and you're really nervous. And when you're nervous, no matter how many people are looking at you and smiling at you and nodding at you, but your eyes are locked to that one person who is angrily looking at you, and you start to get even more nervous. Did that ever happen to you? With the show of hands, you can just tell me. You know, we are very nervous and everybody is smiling, and that one person is angrily looking at you, and you start getting even more nervous. That is called the state of social anxiety. You know, when you enter into a state of social anxiety, your ability to look at angry faces is heightened, because according to the study, the brain responses to three images, that is happy, angry, and neutral images. So you literally focus on the angry images. Yes, I can see, yes. So you literally respond to angry images because you're nervous. So how to feel that you're not nervous, how to ensure that you're not nervous, that is making sure that you need to improve your stage presence. You need to ensure that you're improving your stage presence. How do you improve your stage presence? You improve your stage presence when you signal your entire stage. That is one thing that you need to carry within yourself, is confidence. And you will get confidence only when you know that the content you're about to speak is making a difference. The content that you're making, the content that you're talking is making a difference, is benefiting to the audience, and the audience is learning something out of your content. And it is important for you to break your content into different stages as well. You tell the audience that now you're talking about this topic, you're talking about the characteristics about this topic, importance and functions and everything. You break it into different stages. And most importantly is, you ensure that you use your stage as a piece of your content. You know, like you cannot lock yourself towards the podium. You cannot lock yourself in just one position, standing in one place. You need to ensure that you own the stage. You're not walking fast, but you're walking slowly to ensure that the entire space is yours. You know, so you're not locking yourself with 1,001 papers, and you're not like literally bogging down towards papers and you're telling the presentation. That is not what you need to do. And also you need to be careful that when you're nervous, you start making sure that you're apologizing a lot. Like, for example, you start using phrases like, this could be wrong, or you start using phrases like, oh, well, I'm not really sure about it. You cannot use these phrases. This is detrimental to your message. Every speaker knows that not everybody in the room will like them. So you need to ensure that your content is well researched. Your content is so well researched that no matter from where the question comes up, you are able to answer. And you'll be able to answer, think one important thing, that you need to be honest with the audience. You need to speak the truth with the audience. These tactics will only work when you're authentic and you're honest. So rather than fixating your abilities on others, you need to start concentrating on your inner strengths. Okay, so the first objective was you needed a language, and the second objective was you have to show up to give. In show up to give, we learned about different variations of how to avoid negative starts or positive or false starts. We learned about that, and we learned about different sayings of Simon Sinek. Now the third most important point that I'm going to is fear. Yes, fear. How many of you, with show of hands, tell me that you have experienced fear while we speak? How many of you, with a show of hands, have experienced fear while we speak? Yes, I can see you, Amir. Anybody else? I have experienced fear while we speak. Yes, I can see everybody. Yes, thank you. Yes. It's easier in this condition. Let me tell you one thing. It is easier for people to tell us, bury your fears, or, face your fears. But how? How? Like literally how? Two things you have to keep in mind before you face your fears. Just two things. Public speaking is fundamental to all the industries. Public speaking is fundamental to every industry. And second factor that you have to remember is when you have a problem, you need to find solutions. And if there is no solutions, you need to create solutions. There is no way. You have to create solutions. Most fears about public speaking stem from our fears about being judged. Yes? We are so scared of being judged. We are so scared of people criticizing us that we often forget that we have the power to share a message. We have the power to literally make our speech so powerfully and make a difference with the audiences. We literally forget because we are often just looking at the eyes that they're judging at us, and then we are being criticized. In this scenario, how things helped me, I started watching a lot of videos. I started watching a lot of amazing speakers in action to be inspired. I started watching so many speakers to just know how to work the room, how to work the room like a pro, how to ensure that, the kind of confidence that you give. The kind of fears that I could combat is one such speaker that I came across is Isaac Sarwanga, and his principles were literally that I could imagine, I can relate my life with, I could relate my life incidents with, and I would like to share his principles with and how I could relate my life incidents with. And I'm sure no matter what industry you belong to, what age that you are, no matter which year you are, if you apply these principles, you will transform from where you are and take the journey from where you want to be. So the principles are, in fact, I want to say the three A's, the three magical A's are: the first one is authenticity engages. Then by authenticity engages means, I'll start you with the example. During my graduation, that is, I graduated from St. Francis College, Begumpet, and in the initial year, in my first year, I thought the difficult part about St. Francis College, studying in St. Francis College, is you have to make your own notes. I remember after the end of the syllabus, I went to my favorite lecturer, Sunita ma'am, and I'm still in touch with her, by the way, yes. So I went up to my ma'am and I said, ma'am, what about notes? And she looked at me and she said, notes? I think you have to go to the library if notes that you're finding for. And I said that, ma'am, then I really don't know which point to elaborate and which is more important. She said, exactly. You will only know if you start seeing, if you start referring to more than 6 to 7 textbooks. And that is when me and my entire friends, in fact, the entire St. Francis College, I think you have to agree if you have any friends, that we all literally sit in the library with 7 to 8 textbooks in front of us and we make notes. Okay, so I thought that is the difficult part. But the most difficult part was their internal assessment. Their internal assessment was whatever notes that you made, And 15 marks is being assessed when according to the presentation that you're giving. And the presentation is in the auditorium with all the sections of people sitting in front of you. And I was so worried. And I remember my first presentations were on sales management and consumer behavior. I was really worried. By then, if you remember, I aced myself in introducing myself because of the change of schools. And I aced myself in being very confident because of the realization that I had in my sixth standard and gradual realization that I had that no matter wherever I go, I have to learn to speak. So, but this presentation in front of different sections of people, in front of our teachers, was something that I was really worried. And you know what I did? I went and I asked my friends and my cousins. So I asked my friends that what should I do in my presentation? You know, should I be talking or should I be preparing my PowerPoint presentation? And then I asked my cousins. So my friends said, you know, you have to prepare your PowerPoint presentation because, you know, whatever you are showcasing, you know, that should go coincide with what you're talking. And you have to prepare yourself with PowerPoint. And I listened to them. And then on the other hand, my cousins, they told me that I don't think so. You require a presentation. You should be so powerful enough. Your words, your dialects should be so powerful enough that you're making a difference with your persona. And I don't think so. PowerPoint presentation is something that is important to you. And then I thought that both of them are even. I asked three friends and three cousins whom I was very close to, and it was even that they asked me to do. And I was confused. And then I realized that one person I did not ask, and that one person is myself. I did not ask myself what I would be comfortable in. I did not ask myself that was I comfortable in giving a PowerPoint or not. So when I say students, when I say authenticity engages, I mean you need to ask yourself before you seek advice. You need to know yourself even before you seek advice from people, because the audience can feel your realness. The audience are the one who can see that you're honest in front of them. I aced the presentation then, but I could not win the hearts of the audience because I had no Isaac Sarwanga's principles to tell me that I had to listen to myself. I was so confused that I was just not sure whether if I'm giving PowerPoint or whether I'm talking correct, or if I'm talking correct, was my PowerPoint correct? So I was really not sure. So I was just ranting the kind of subject that I had made notes of, and I could win the teacher's heart because my subject knowledge was good, but the audiences were completely blank because I just could not connect to them. So you need to listen to yourself before you speak. And the second one, the second principle is awareness. You know, awareness. Awareness is something that connects speaker to the audience. Now I'll give you an example, another one with awareness. Uh, 2009, my first lecture uh, in HRM in Villa Marie College as a lecturer. Now, Villa Marie College is like the huge windows open, like when you're walking, you can see the entire classroom. And I prepared myself with HRM, and because they were running initial BMS courses for some time, so they asked me to take an HRM. So I was very much prepared, like the way I was prepared in my graduation, like the way I was prepared in my master's. So I was prepared with HRM. What is HRM? What is the functions? What are the characteristics? What are the importance? I was like fully prepared and I was ready to go for a class. And when I'm walking to the class, I could see from the window 120 of the students sitting, all of them brats, like literally brats, you know, like sitting, and they're judging me. And they're judging me that when she will start talking and then when we can cut her down. And while I'm walking, I just thought to myself that I can't understand the humans in front of me. Where will I teach human resource management? You know? And when I finished walking, when I started entering into the class, the only thing that went in my head was, okay, I decided that I would start with the story. So I went up on the stage and I started saying that I just wanted to let you all know that you must be expecting that I'm teaching you human resource management. And you will be thinking that I will be talking about the great personality on how people's skills that they managed things. You are expecting that I will be talking about Steve Jobs or uh, Ratan Tata or Dhirubhai Ambani. I'm sorry, I'm not going to talk any of that. You know, they are attentive now. They are quiet. And then I said, where are we studying? We are studying over here in this state, in this Hyderabad state. So let me tell you about the icon. Let me tell you about the big shots who made it till those names, like Steve Jobs, who made it till those names. I know one such person who made it till up there, who coming from the same state. Can you believe somebody who, in his 10th standard, wrote an exam on vocational commercial railway exam and went for 7 years working in some remote railway platforms in Tamil Nadu, in Kodalbupur, and working over there for 7 years, sleeping in those platforms, can be the huge IAS officer right now. Can you believe that? And now they're intrigued. You get what I'm saying? Now they're intrigued to know where I'm going with that. And I said, that man right now he's a judicial magistrate right now, he's an IAS officer. And that man has just one thing to tell, one important thing to tell, that is, he has learned and his life has shaped up only by interacting with people. Only by communicating by different kind of people was he able to be aware of the fact that he needs to study these exams. He was aware of the fact that when he should be studying different kinds of exams and how he should be preparing himself, because back then in his times he just knew that he had to do only engineer or he had to only be a doctor. That kind of a person he is now. Ronald Rose, you can look him up in the TED Talks, where he literally shares his life journey. And he, one most important thing that he concentrates on, interacting with people. Then I looked at my students and I said that that is the people skill that he is trying to tell. That is the people skill that he's trying to give. Do you want to know more about the people's knowledge to study about human resource management? And they all agreed. And that is when I made sure that I have won their hearts. You know, when I said awareness, let me come back. When I said awareness, I mean that you need to be situation awareness. You need to have situation awareness. You need to be aware that right now, how can you juggle with your content? How can you juggle with the kind of content that people are expecting you to start with? What kind of audiences that you will face? What kind of different audiences perception is for you to start? So the moment you will have situation awareness, that is when you know how to play with whatever is happening. Okay. So my third point is audacity. Definitely, you need to be brave. Audacity informs and inspires. You need to be bold in whatever you say. You need to ensure that you are upfront. You cannot half step into any presentation. You need to ensure that you're making a difference and you are teaching the crowd something and they're learning something and they're going in that 1 hour. So in order for you to do that, you need to be making sure that you're aware of the situation and you're ensuring that you're listening to yourself, that from where you can start the conversation with. And for all these things, you need to be brave. You need to ensure that your content is very well researched. Now, coming from your objectives and your principles that we just finished, let me move on to the tips. Now, your objectives and principles were more focused on the fact of your inner strength. We're more focused on your determination part, on publicly speaking. What are the points that you have to keep in mind? Just a quick recap. In your objectives, we learned about the importance of language. We learned the importance of making sure that you have to have a showing attitude. And the third one is we made sure how to combat fear. In order to combat fear, we learned about the principles that Isaac Servanga's teachings are. And the three principles were authenticity engages, awareness, and audacity that we have learned with different kinds of my journey that I have told you. And now coming to the tips, these tips are something that you need to know on how to work the stage and how to be on the stage and how to like literally rock the stage. So the first point is it's just not about what you say. It's just not about what you say. Public speaking, in fact, I can say public speaking is like a pencil, or I can say speech is like a pencil. It has to have a point. I mean, if you don't make a point, I mean, it's waste for that 1 hour session of yours. So, your lasting impression is tied down to two most important things, okay? Two most important things are your voice and your body language. In fact, according to the statistics, half of your percentage is literally bogging down to your voice and your body language. Your body language, I will be talking about it in my third point. Right now, let me talk about voice. You know, you need to understand to vary your tone. You need to understand when to talk really fast in order to get their attention, when to talk really slow in order to get the attention of the crowd, depending upon what kind of crowd that you're coming across with. And the most interesting thing is the speaker that I have come across is Nancy Durant. Um, After years of studying the realtical strategies, she ensured that why is it that when speakers speak and people are literally intrigued about it, you know, they're attentive. When the other speaker is speaking the same content and that they're just not bothered about listening to it, you know, why is that variation that's happening? And she did a study and she analyzed that the structure of all the great speaker is just one. The structure of Martin Luther King to President Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt, to Barack Obama, to Steve Jobs, all the great speakers have just one structure. And the structure is falling down to two categories. The first one is what is, and second one is what it could be. You know, every great speaker is literally talking, his speech is literally constructed with what is and what it could be. What is meaning, what is the process, what is the problem, and how to solve a problem. And what it could be is literally they are painting a bright picture about the future, about the goal that they have to attain it or they can attain it. And what is the benefit that the world or people are going to get if they follow them. So every lecture, it should start with what is the process, what is the content, what is the problem, and then you're solving the problem and then giving a solution, and you're saying that why that my content or my solution should be the best one. Just like Nancy Durant realtical studies that she said, it was very, very good. So you need to ensure that your voice and your body language is the best. That is what it is. When I said it is just not about what you say, so that means you should not only concentrate on the PowerPoint presentation, what you should be telling in that PowerPoint presentation, what are the points that you should be adding in the PowerPoint presentation. You often literally forget on how to tell it. So you need to ensure, in order to keeping in mind that how that you should go about it, you should also ensure your pronunciations, like I said, and your voice and your body language should be very confident. Okay. Now the second one is connect better with positive impression. Connect better with the audience with the positive impression. For me, it's like a text. You know, it's like a text. Suppose if I'm texting Gayatri, okay, I'm texting Gayatri and I'm telling her, you know, Gayatri, you've done a wonderful job. I'm giving a good vibe. But if I'm texting Gayatri a very sarcastic message saying that I really have to talk to you, I'm giving a bad vibe. I'm literally messing things up. That is how it is. You know, you need to connect better with the audience, showing them a positive persona, showing them a positive impression. You can do that. Like I can give you an example. In my 8th standard itself, by then I was in the Indian school of Salala. So there was this favorite sir of mine, Chaco sir. Yes, his name was Chaco sir. And he had a very different way of coming into the class. And he would come into the class with only holding a globe in his hand. He would only carry a globe in his hand and he would come and he would start his lecture with telling a quote. he would start a lecture with literally telling you a joke. Imagine people from different parts of the places, people coming from different parts, from Sri Lanka, coming from China, coming from India, different coming from different states of India, are also laughing on the same joke that he's cracking. So having a sense of humor is the best possible way in order to connect, in order to have a positive impression. And the second most important thing that I liked about the sir is the way he watched across the classroom, the way he saw every minutest thing, and he made sure that he made eye contact with each of us, that we all felt special, that he is regarding us. And the kind of language that he spoke. Now, coming back to the objective, the same way when we go to Telangana, we go to Andhra Pradesh and we start talking in Telangana language, and they will not accept you, their mind is blocked. They will start correcting our Telugu every now and then. The same way when you stand in front of a Pakistani and you're talking in Urdu, in a wrong Urdu, and you're claiming that is Urdu, his mind is blocked. He's only constantly correcting your Urdu. The same way it is English. You need to ensure that the kind of positive impression that you're having is the language that you're carrying with you. And this is something that should not come in between. And the third one is the first crucial 90 seconds. Now, the first crucial 90 seconds is the start of your speech. The start of your speech should be the best of your speech. You need to ensure that your starting of the speech should be like Chaco sir, that you can start with a quote, or you can start with a joke, you can start with a prop, you can come with a newspaper cutting, you can come with any kind of technical thing of the computer, carrying in your hand, because visual memory stays in your mind. Or you can use a story like me, the way I used the story in my first class, in my HRM class, if you remember, yes, in the awareness class that I used, you can start using a story. Now, let me tell you the importance of story here, okay? Your brain operates in pictures, and the story has the ability to paint that picture in the minds of another individual. If you look at the best of the speakers, and if you look at half of the TED Talk, 90% of them is story centric. Stories literally reaches out to all industries, be it your personal story or be it a story of Martin Luther King. I mean, any story, it reaches out, it sets to the audience, it sets to the industries. But also keep in mind that never tell a story without making a point, or never make a point without telling a story. When I told a story about Ronald Rose, I made a point because he's a people's person, and how he came up the ladder, and how he managed things, and how it connected to HRM. I did not start off by talking about a product or talking about an advertisement when I'm talking about a content on HRM. So you need to ensure, once again, let me repeat, that you should never tell a story without making a point, or never make a point without telling a story. Now, my second last point is, my fourth point is, don't stand like you sit. Don't stand like you sit. Here comes the body language that I am focusing on. You should never point finger like this and talk in the audience. You should never point finger like that and keep talking to the audience. And you should also ensure that your body positions is very important. Like, you cannot lean like this, you cannot lean like this and start talking to the audience. That is when they will just observe your casuality, and they will not concentrate on your subject matter ever again. You should ensure that you're not leaning as well. You're not leaning and talking, you're not leaning and discussing, and you're not swinging. You're not swinging from your left, you're not swinging from your right, you're not exercising, right? You're not exercising, so you cannot be leaning every now and then. So you need to ensure that your body language is very good by making a lot of hand movements. That is why I think, if you look closely at the lecturers, they do a lot of hand movements, is because to wake the audience. That is one of the most important thing in public speaking, that you need to do hand movements. You cannot fold your hands. You cannot fold your hands. That means you're creating a wall between you, that you're scared, and you're not open to any audience asking you any kind of questions. So you need to ensure that you're using a lot of hand. And my last topic and my last point is road mapping. Road mapping. Road mapping is the overview that you give, the overview of your topic that you will give to the audience. You need to ensure that you are setting an expectation to the audience that your overview, that you're going to learn this. And the audience should know the expectation that the speaker is giving us these many content so that we can get benefited too. And you're also clearing the clear vision. You're setting a vision in the minds of the audience that they are going to leave this room by making a difference. They are going to leave this room by carrying a lot of knowledge in their mind. So you need to ensure that the overview should not be too boring and the overview should be very crisp and brief to the audiences. All right. So yes, I want to tell you one thing that before I show you the video that I told you that I would show you. Before going to that video, I want to tell you that you can see me, you can see that how it all started for me. So I think for me, it all started when I was little. That what empowered me to act. That what empowered me to go on this journey to be a lecturer, to go on this journey to be a speaker. And to tell you students, this is not an end. Every year you want to get better than how you were just last year. So there is no end process to it. There is no end process. There is no finish line to this unless you tell yourself you're good enough. And coming to my topic, public speaking, I speak, you listen. That means when I see you all listening, I see all these participants, I see when you all are listening to me while I'm speaking, that shows that you're one amongst those who are wanting to make a difference, who are wanting to live a life, who have been imagining to live in future by developing their skill on public speaking. And when you're developing your skill on public speaking, I will see you grow. And when I see you grow and share your thoughts, share your ideas, and share your values and share your story, at that time, you will speak and I will listen. Thank you so much for listening to me. And now I will request, Roy sir, are you there? Hello? Hello?
Yes, madam. I will share this.
Yes, sir. You can share the video. I want you to literally watch this video because this video does not tell you about any lessons, because I think I have told you enough about lessons, enough about how to behave, how to act, and what are the determination aspects that you have to keep in mind. This is a video which covers up, which sums up everything that you want to know about public speaking. Just listen to him.
Dhananjaya Hediarachi, I see something. I see something. Dhananjaya Hediarachi.
You and I are not very different from this flower. Just like this flower is unique, you are unique. All of us has something special that makes us as beautiful. Do you know what makes you special? Now the answer to that can be a little difficult to find, because sometimes life has a cruel way of picking out your petals, breaking you in two, and throwing you into the trash. And when you're broken, it's very difficult to feel special. Mr. Contest Chair, my fellow flowers, I can remember the first time I broke. I was 17 years old. I had already flunked high school and managed to get myself arrested. Now, I wasn't afraid of the cops, but there was one person I was very afraid of, and that was my mama. Raise your hand if you have an emotional mother. Let me see. Put them all together, you get mama. I can hear her scream outside the police station. Even the cops were afraid. She came up to me, held the iron bars, looked into my eyes, and I saw a tear coming down her face. Now, I've seen my mama cry before, but mothers cry 3 types of tears. Tears of joy, tears of sorrow, and tears of shame. And when a son sees a mother cry tears of shame, that's a life-changing moment. She looked at me and said, "Son, I want you to be a better man." That night, when I drove home, my dad was waiting for me at home. Now, my dad is a cool dad. Raise your hand if you have a cool dad. Put them all together, you get my dad. My dad came up to me and said, "Son, it's okay. You flunked your exams. You already got arrested. That's fine. You get that from your mother's side. I want you to start working immediately." And I said, "Okay." So my dad took me to meet one of his friends called Sam. Now, Sam was an accountant who had an accounting firm and had generously decided to make me his personal assistant. And there he was. He looked like a teddy bear. But this man was special. I looked at him and he looked at me. And then he said the most amazing thing. He said, "Son, I see something in you, but I don't know what it is. If you decide to work with me, I can help you find that something." And I was like, "Whoa, that's the first time in my whole life somebody has ever told they see something in me." And I started working for Sam. And every day after work, he used to tell me stories about the world, about history, about culture, about philosophy. And it was much more interesting than what I learned in school. And I discovered I can dream. And I started dreaming, ladies and gentlemen. After 1 year, I went back into high school, completed my exams, and went into college. After successfully completing college, I found a great girl, but not a job. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Have you ever had that problem? And when you're lost, it's difficult to feel special. So I went back to my cool dad. And I said, "Dad, I feel lost." He said, "You are like your mother." So my dad introduced me to this strange club that had a strange name, with strange people talking. On the first meeting, they told me to do something called a table topic. I aced it. But while I was speaking, I see a strange man seated in the back row. Humble, simple. The unfailing quality of kindness in his eyes. As soon as I finished, he walked up to me, looked me dead straight in the eye, and said, "Son, I see something in you, but I don't know what it is. If you come here twice a month, maybe we can find that something." And ladies and gentlemen, I discovered I could speak, and I love speaking. And that led me to become a teacher. I know what it's like to not have enough money in your bank account. I know what it's like to worry when the bills start coming in. And sometimes, in the middle of the night, I wake up my beautiful wife and I ask her, "Honey, why did you marry me?" She says, "I saw something in you, but I still don't know what it is." Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm a dreamer, I'm a speaker, and I learned the unfailing quality of unconditional love from my wife. I was broken, and I've been broken, lost, and broke many times in my life. But the people in my life were able to reach into the trash can and make me whole again. If it was up to me, I would have never been able to do that. And this is why, if you have great people in your life, no matter how broke, how lost, or how broken you become, they can piece you back together. Ladies and gentlemen, when I look at you, I see something in you. But I don't know what it is. Over to you.
I think with the speech, there is no teaching nothing. Like you can see, and if you go back, Dhananjaya Hitriarchi is from Sri Lanka. His speeches were not like this. His speeches were just not like this. How he improvised on speeches is what is more important. And if you look closely at his speech, he used a prop. He started with an example, and what kind of humorous way that he took his life journey with, and how he came back to that point again. You know, that is what is really very amazing about him. So yes, any questions, or should we end it? Is there any questions? I'm just waiting. Any question and answer?
We'll take one or two questions. Madam. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I have a question.
Yes, Vash. Go ahead.
Yeah, ma'am. Actually, what if there is a firm which is not providing a proper facilities, ma'am? Okay. So, which are mandatory for an employee to, in the company, keep on insisting them about the work and deadlines which the workers can't finish as they are not able with amenities. So, what if there is a boss who is really close with an employee, and there is a conflict between the organization and the workers? So the employee did the right thing supporting the workers rather than supporting the boss. Uh, as the employee was on right side, the boss couldn't handle it because the employee and the boss were pretty close. So what type of public speaking could help the employee fix the relationship between the boss?
Well, how is public relationship? Okay, if you're talking about this, see, suppose if the worker and the manager or whoever the boss is, and if they actually had a very good, relationship, and then you thought that the employer was supporting his fellow mates, and probably I think he would have discussed with the boss first, since he is closer to the boss, and he should have shared with the boss that, are you being with whatever, that you're not supplying this, or you're not giving us enough of money that we have to work for, or you're not giving us machinery to work for. So if he is confronting to the boss first, and if the boss is having no reply, that is when it would be easier for him to slide back and be with the trade union. I think that is something that would help. I think this is not related to public speaking, Vamshi.
Okay, we'll take
Any
one more question, madam.
Okay, Anu ma'am.
Yes.
See, ma'am, do you think like while we are speaking, we need to use high profile or sophisticated language while conveying our information to others? But because I have seen so many people using this sophisticated language or high profile language. But for me, I think language is just a way of communication. However you speak, you are going to convey the same information to others. So is it needed to use a sophisticated and high profile language?
Like I told you, that you need to have a certain degree of command over your language and your pronunciation, and that is it. I think that is the best way that you can deal with things. Like I gave you an example of Ronald Rose. If you go back and look at his TED Talk, the way he spoke is just not about he used great words. And even for me, like when I was communicating about public speaking, I was not using great words into it. Making sure that you're using a language that is like people can listen to, and people know that you're not going wrong with those dialects and with the jargons. I mean, that is when that you know that you have nailed it. I think using high profile is something that just not goes along with the profile. You just have to convey your producing your thoughts in an organized way. You're producing your exact idea, And language is something that should not come as a barrier, because whatever you're producing, your thoughts, your thoughts should be spoken in the same kind of way. And when you're having a problem with the language, that is when the audience will not understand your language. They will not understand that what exactly you're trying to communicate with them. So that is why you need to have a certain degree of command over your pronunciation and your language. That's it.
Okay.
Okay.
Ma'am, I have a question. Like, we address a lot of people at different places. Okay, so do you think it is important to get into their shoes of thinking and address the crowd, or you can just go the way you are and try to explain your way?
Like I gave you an example, I tried to explain my way. I went back to my old me, the preparation part, where I wanted to prepare exactly everything and then just come and rant whatever I prepared. But that is not how it is done. You need to ensure that which gathering that you're going, the gathering, there is already intellectual people and they are waiting for you to just come there, talk your subject matter, and then just go, then that's it, then you're perfect. But you're sitting in a mixed crowd gathering, you're sitting in a classroom, or you're sitting in a TED Talks gathering where they're expecting a humor, they're expecting a content where you are having certain wavelengths to it, that you are starting with something like a story, or you're interesting them with something. So that is when you're sitting with a mixed crowd, always ensure that your starting of the speech should be very good, very intrigued, so that they are taking your attention, because that is why you are there. So if you're there without having their attention, that is like you're speaking just to the
Yeah.
walls. So you need to ensure that you are looking at their pulse of the audience. That is how it
Okay.
is.
Okay. With this, we'll stop the questions and
Yeah. All right, sir. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, Roy sir, should I start?
Yes.
yes, Vaishnavi.
Yes.
Hello everyone. That was an incredible session by Anu ma'am. We learned various ways from objectives, principles, that 3 A's that you explained by using your personal experiences. That is very interesting, ma'am. And tips to improve and develop our communication skills for successful public speaking. I particularly like this. Speech is like a pencil, which is like pencil has a point. In the same way, our speech also should have a point or important thing that which we want to convey to others. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for making us reflect us in exploring more techniques of creating our own effective way to speak in public. Thank you, ma'am, for making this session impactful. I would like to end with a quote. The art of communication is the language of leadership. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much, Vaishnavi. Thank you for the wonderful closing speech. It shows that you have heard everything, huh?
Okay. A small announcement.